Welcome to Goddess State. We have our first guest with us, Caroline. I'm so excited to talk about today's conversation, which is basically fusion of the body and mind and how they are so intertwined. And Carolyn has gone through her personal story to have that awakened within her, how deeply connected our bodies are to our minds. And I'm excited to bring her story forward and kind of just share with you what she's got going on and awaken this idea of fusion, her claim to fame methodology of fusing the mind and body together to be more embodied, to feel more somatically activated and awakened. And so, Caroline, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and also share with us how you awakened to this mind body connection.
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. I am honored. It's a pleasure to be
You're
here.
welcome.
I'm Caroline. I'm the founder of Sunjoy Healing. And this is a space where I weave together trauma informed care, somatic therapy, and spiritual practices like astrology, ritual, and energy work. I'm also a graduate student in social work, specializing in trauma and somatics. So a lot of my work is about helping people regulate their nervous systems, turning pain into possibility, and reconnecting with that inner radiance that I think so many of us want. And your work is so intertwined with as well.
Yay. I feel like we all do kind of the same work. We're all either shadow workers, light workers, healers, but at the end of the day, what it comes down to is reminding people of their divinity. That's why I created Goddess State, because hello, the power is within you. Whatever limitation you're going through, whether it be mind, emotion, body, whatever it is, you can find a way to heal that. I truly believe that. And I believe that everything that we see in the world kind of goes against that and tells us otherwise, whether it be the beauty industry or be the health industry or be the education industry, like whatever it is, it says, hey, power is outside of you. We know the right way. No, in reality, you know the right way in your body, in your mind, in your soul. So when you were talking to me about, this episode and what we could bring to life, you were talking about the origin story of realizing that you had something really traumatic going on. And I love when we talk about an origin story of something, that's kind of like the beginning of our awakening. That's where the story really starts. So, can you paint the same picture that you painted for me about you lying in the grass and just share that with people?
Yeah, so my story really begins at 11 years old. I would lie in the grass in my backyard pretending I was dead. And it really was the only way I knew to get my pain visible. It eventually, I later that year learned that I had a severe spinal curve in my spine that I needed a back brace for. And by the time I was 18, my entire spine was fused with 22 screws and 2 rods. So from a very young age, I learned fusion is bad. Fusion is, something that limits you. It corrects a problem. And I think so much of what you're saying about how we have to look within, and we look within to find more about ourselves and about our body. Coming into that was really a struggle of like chronic pain and trauma and anxiety, depression, affecting me, and turning that into the thing that changed everything, which was embodiment. Embodiment was finally my spine could become something different than just limitation. Finally, I could arrive in my body and be completely whole. And I think, that's where my story of turning pain into possibility has become my life's work. It inspires every session I do with a client. It inspires my studies. It inspires the whole existence.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So you were
Yeah.
11 years old in the grass saying, I'm lying down because my back is so in pain, and nobody taking you seriously, or
Yeah, I was trying to get attention, trying to have anybody look at me. and say, she needs help. And I think at that age, it can be hard to realize like we have to tune in and learn to give that to ourselves. But as I grew, eventually I learned that through a lot of really, really tough lessons.
And did you have scoliosis or what was going on?
I had kyphosis. So it's like a hump in your back, basically. And it was so severe. It was like 80 something degrees. They straightened out my
Wow.
spine. And fun fact, I grew 4 inches that day from that surgery. So I went from being 5'6" to 5'10" in
Whoa.
one day. Yeah.
Whoa. Oh my God. And all because of that fusion of the screws and the bolts. And so does that remain in your body?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
Wow. So you had to learn to live with this now.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does it feel? I mean, do you sense it on the daily?
It really, I thought for a long time, no effect. Did not notice it, did all the things that most normal 20 something year olds do until my lifestyle caught up with me. So when I was about 27, Saturn return, my Saturn return was basically all of it coming crashing down and realizing that my spine was very connected to like chronic headaches and chronic migraines and
Wow.
TMJ. So I started struggling with like the referred pain, they call it.
Okay. And just curious to know, where is Saturn in your chart and what sign? What house?
It is in Aquarius in the fourth house. Yeah, so
Wow,
the
your
bottom of the chart.
grounded foundation.
Yes.
That's wow.
Yeah.
Saturn in Aquarius in the fourth house.
Hmm.
Saturn ruling structure, bones.
Yeah.
That's huge. Wow. That's amazing. I just love astrology like that. And
Yeah.
so, how did you begin to work with this new addition to your physical vessel
So, you
to feel
know,
normal?
yeah, I started tuning in. Chronic pain, you can't help but pay attention to it. It's there. It's always there. It was a matter of learning to listen to what it was saying and turning it into more of what can I learn from this and not take it as pain equals bad. Pain equals a signal. Pain equals something that your body is trying to tell you. And tuning into that, I started to adjust my life, and my life started to adjust for me in different ways that were more aligned with choices that aligned with who I was and who I wanted to become.
And what are some of the things that you did differently?
Yeah, I went from being a flight attendant, traveling the world, going 90 to nothing, nonstop, all over the place, to tuning into my ability to create slowness, to create that consistency of ritual on a daily basis, that consistency of movement on a daily basis, and tuning into my body in a way that holds space for myself to adapt and grow. So
So
big lifestyle changes.
you had to quit the flight attending, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you do to replace that,
So
job wise?
I went to school
Okay.
and I started, just getting more one-on-one clients and building
Nice.
my business. And it didn't happen overnight. It was a long, slow process. I mean, like anything is with Saturn
Yeah.
involved.
Well, thank you for sharing that because I think a lot of people are going to relate to this idea of chronic pain and this persistence and not paying attention to its signal. Like, hey, what actually is going on here? I know that Louise Hay, I believe that's her name, she has a book and it's called like um, basically the body's connection to the mind. And whenever I go through anything, I refer to her guide because it's just like 200 symptoms of what you're experiencing and what it could be linked to emotionally. And so within the last 2 years, I've done so much subconscious reprogramming. And funny enough, I got a root canal and I was like, okay, why am I getting a root canal when I'm literally doing the best work of my life? Funny enough, in Louise Hay's guide, root canal is literally uprooting limiting beliefs, changing like limiting beliefs. And I was like, this is crazy. And I know that I have a lot of tension, like chronic pain in the right side of my body. And I'm also like hyper masculine and I have to recondition myself into my feminine constantly. And so whenever I have flare ups in my right hip or my right shoulder, I'm like, okay, girl, I hear you. I hear you. We need to rest. We need to relax. We need to have time for play and pleasure and joy and fun and ease. And so I love what you're saying about our body being a messenger for us. It's literally trying to communicate something to us. So rather than looking at our pain and being like, oh, another day of this, oh, this again, like, no, it's literally trying to speak with you. It's your best friend giving you something to pay attention to. So yeah, I hope that people really resonate with that idea. And so you said fusion now. You looked at it as a hindrance in the past, but now you're looking at fusion as something to brand. You know, I'm in branding. I love seeing how people brand their companies and take an idea and turn it into a methodology. So, how are you creating fusion and kind of branding it to be a huge part of your life? How do you teach people fusion?
It's all about embodiment, the blending. The fusion is the blend of body and mind. You know, part of my life is integrating therapeutic techniques. And through that, it's learning how the body comes into play with that. I'm a Reiki master, so I've always been really in tune with the body and the messages that we get from accessing different parts of the body and what those messages want to speak about to us, how we can change our energy through the body. But this integration and training that I've been doing on somatic experiencing specifically has brought it all together. So it's embodiment is fusion uses my spine as a living metaphor. It has become something that is the essence of who I am. And I love that you speak about branding because it's like, duh, like that's it.
Yeah, I actually just recently found out that brand actually just means public identity. And I was like, oh
Mm.
my God, that's so beautiful because for the longest time I was like, I want to be an identity coach, but there was a missing piece. I was like, yes, I can help people with their identity related to love, related to health, related to this. But I was like, but I want them to be known. I was like, I want them to have a strong identity out in the world because it's one thing to have an identity in the mirror at home alone and know who you are. But the deepest work, visibility, is the deepest spiritual initiation you will ever go through because to be seen in front of your partner as your most truest self, to be seen in front of the world as your most truest self, that takes a level of embodiment, like you're saying, raw authenticity to know what authenticity actually is. Because I hated that word for the longest time, but authenticity is allowing people to see the relationship that you have with yourself publicly. And that's what brand means to me. It's like, how much of you can you be in this world? How much space can you take up in this world? And that's why for me, it's the highest form of spirituality to be famous. And that's such a bold statement, but again, with all the work that I'm doing with branding, you have to be bold, you have to be visible, you have to have a common enemy, you have to stand for something. And so you stand for fusion, fusion of the body mind. One of them can't exist without the other. It's beautiful. Do you have any practices that you can help people tune into in terms of fusing if they have any sort of chronic pain or if they're like, you know what? How do I even embody fusion? What does that look like for the random person?
I'll use myself as an example. So I wore a back brace for a long time in middle school. And it's symbolic, right? It's the hiding, it's the covering of my body. And that was what the public saw for a long time. And I let all that internal shame just crumble me. And now I have all of that to unpack. So through working, I think the best healers have healers. You know, we are always working to become better versions of what we do and like hone our craft. So I work with another healer, and she and I were going through this symbology of a brace. So there's certain symbologies of your life. Like everyone
Mm.
can pinpoint. The more you write, writing is a great tool too. The more you journal, you start to recognize these symbologies, these mythologies of your life and what they actually represent. So picking out brace for me was
Mm.
like, in what ways am I still bracing? And I think the difference, you don't go straight into it. You don't have to go straight into the trauma. You kind of are on the periphery until eventually you come into the center of it. So for me, that looked like talking about how my week was. You find something that activates like mild anxiety. For instance, someone cut you off in traffic. Someone from a random number called me and I avoided answering it. What does that say about where I am now? Well, through my work with another healer, we eventually got to the point where I'm avoiding it because I'm bracing for something to happen. I'm bracing for impact. That stuck
Yeah.
feeling. And unpacking the resources that I have around me. So that's another huge part, is like activating what resources you've had during past traumas and during the present. What resources do you have now that help you get through it?
Wow. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean, you're activating so much for me right now because I think it was in the book Women Who Run with Wolves.
Yeah.
She talks about anchor points of the life and how when you look at these anchor points, they all lead up to a story of your life. And it's usually the things that stand out the most, whether they be like the grand moments of graduation or getting your first dog or whatever it is, to the traumatic ones. This negative thing happened to me, this person did this, I lost this, I lost everything. And these anchor points, they build a story. And especially for branding, they build a story that you can then market and say, hey, I went through this. Again, turning that pain into power, doing that alchemy, being like, these are all the things I went through because I needed to go through that certain initiation to stand tall in my power. I needed to be fused with bolts so that I could stand 5 inches taller. Like these are such marketable stories. And they do show you what you're here to stand for. They show you, you know, um, what you might be able to help someone else with in terms of, having better posture, but energetically.
Mhm.
Walking into a room and believing in yourself and believing in your gifts and everything that you have to offer. That could even translate into you being like a confidence coach or whatever. I'm not going to get into like a branding session, but I just love looking at people's lives through the lens of like, wow, what are they here to do in terms of like legacy, and what are they here to leave behind? I love what you said about taking these moments and creating a word for them, like brace, or looking at these anchor points and creating a word and kind of like seeing if it still resonates in your daily life right now. So, would you say that you have alchemized that anchor point and you no longer have to brace for experiences in your life? Or do you think that you're still moving through that lesson right now?
In some ways, there's trickles still, and we're always unpacking that. I think that's a like belief that I had when I first started the healing work, that like eventually all of it goes away and I'm healed. There's still, little essences of it that are just like new layers to unpack. But for the most part, I look around and I look at my life and all the joy and all the ease, and I'm like, I'm not the same person. The work has gotten easier because
Mm-hmm.
of diving deep, you know?
Yeah, I was just about to say it gets deeper. It might be the
Hmm.
same spiral, but it's to reveal a deeper layer of that spiral. Like it makes me think about the fact that we always have the same birth chart our whole lives. There's a reason for that. We always have the same placements. You're always going to have Saturn in the fourth house. But the more you evolve, the more years that pass, Saturn in the fourth house changes. You get new codes from that.
Yeah.
The placement activates differently. Even the transiting planets around Saturn in the fourth house will bring new insights to that. But we all have this crystallized energy within us that we're meant to bring forward in some way. So, yeah, I love this idea. I hope people can walk away with this being like, oh, wow, what word comes to mind that I'm going through every day in my life? And what can I connect that to? Because you said that it's connected to everything, all these different activities of brace, when you're in the car, when you're bracing for a phone call. It's that underlying energy of your actions that you're trying to label so that you can understand what needs to be alchemized. And so what would you say is the equal opposite of brace? Ease, flow, relaxation?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And one thing I do when I tune in with people and their body is ask them where they feel it in their body. And
Mm.
during that session, I was feeling it like in my stomach and just this bracing, like you're ready to take a punch or something. And when I just kind of relaxed, I sat back. I was able to just let whatever was taking care of me just do what they needed to do. And I didn't have to be the brace anymore. I
Wow.
I could just allow it to happen. Um, yeah, and I when I tune into that ease, it it really is such a metaphor for how I live my life. Tuning into ease is nervous system care because we're constantly building that capacity. A lot of times I definitely thought this like, I'm going to go and ask for healing under the full moon, under an eclipse, because that has to get me on like the fastest path to healing. But healing is about doing it as you're ready, incrementally, because your nervous system, if
Mm-hmm.
it gets to the point that it's overriding, you kind of take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
So doing it incrementally, slowly, where you're at, I think is a lot
Yeah.
more sustainable.
I love that you say that. I love so much that you say that because as light workers, as healers, we want to be like at the ultimate end. We see these gurus online and we see these people leading the masses and we're like, I can do that. I can do that.
Hmm.
Why am I not there? Why do I have this specific insecurity? Why do I still hold shame from that thing that happened to me at 5 years old? And whatever it is that you're holding on to, like Carolyn is saying, like it takes time or it takes nervous system safety to be able to even process that. I know that I smoked weed for the entirety of my 20s because I had such a traumatic childhood. I lost my mom when I was, uh, 11, and she had just given birth to two kids. So I became like this mother figure without our mom there. And I grew up in poverty and I just had like this train wreck of a life, but most healers do, right? And so I didn't have the nervous system capacity to process all of that. I literally had to numb out for the entirety of my 20s, 20 years old to 29. But I was a high functioning weed smoker. I would go to like college, I would go to university, got 2 degrees, like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it was always my nervous system was like, no, no, not now, just another hit. No, no, not now. Like, we need to numb out right now because I can't deal with that right now. And so I want this to also honor someone who might be going through like addiction and not to glorify it, but to honor that this isn't the end. Like your body is doing the best it can to survive right now. What kind of advice would you give someone to expand their nervous system capacity to be able to get over things like addiction or to even just be able to sense something so traumatic and painful that would cause a body to shut down? Because I will also say, if you try to process too much at once, you might go into like overdrive and shut down and waste years of your life too. So it is like you're saying, incremental feeling to heal.
Absolutely. I think, and thank you for sharing that part of your story. I mean, it's amazing what resilience comes out for so many and what the human body and mind is capable of doing despite all these odds. And what we do to protect ourselves is never, we're always on the path. We might take a second or years, and I've been there too, trust me, like with addiction and substance use, it's very, very potent part of my story as well. So when I reflect on that, it's all about kind of the story that I tell myself. Yes, there were things about it that I made mistakes, as we all do, but do I attach shame to it in the current moment? Do I attach guilt? Do I attach regret and self loathing? Or can I take it as a protective strategy at the time? Because my nervous system was not ready. And what was safe enough was that at the time. So moving, to that person who is struggling with that, or maybe just went through a trauma, take it slow. It's incremental. You might try something and find that it doesn't work, but you still tried. Your body is still building up that resilience to eventually come to a point over time where you can try something new that works. You can have the nervous system ability to try like Reiki or healing work, because I don't, with my work, like always start people off on the table, because some people aren't ready for that.
Yeah.
And what feels safest for them might be just a conversation about where do you notice that in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And just
You're
that
bringing up
tuning
something
in.
so powerful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just that awareness of your body is somatic healing. It's not always the big movements, the shaking. Those things are really, really potent and powerful and useful, but so much of it is awareness that there is that connection.
Mm-hmm. I love that you say that, because once we're aware of something at a soul level, you can't unsee it. There's no going back. Awareness is often 90% of the problem. It's that we're just not aware. I was having a conversation with someone recently who was very much so a victim of their pain. And, when you do have these conversations with people, you do have to see like where they're at and what they're ready for, because can you divulge the whole universe to them and be like, the universe is mental, all is mental, read the Kabbalion, heal your chakras, you got this, just think differently, feel different emotions? They're gonna be like, whoa, 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 stop. Like, I didn't choose to have this pain. And so it's like there's a disconnect by trying to share with them all the healing modalities in the world to just try to give them their power back. And I'm guilty of this. I'm literally just talking to myself here. So there's a difference between that, trying to force all this healing onto them to try to show them and shake them into their power, versus being like, I see you. I see how much pain you're in. That must suck. And not in a way to glorify victimhood, but in a way to be like, now what do we do? What do we do from here? I see you. And maybe it's not even about doing anything. Let me hold you in this pain. You are valid in this pain. Um, how does it feel? Talk about it, move through it, process it. But then again, there's that fine line of like, well, do we want to indulge in the pain and then keep perpetuating it? Or do we consistently look for solutions? What's one thing that you can do to feel better about this today? Maybe you can switch your diet. Let's say if you have like chronic gut issues, have you tried like a different diet? Maybe you take this piece of bread out today. It's incremental to the point where little shifts happen, and then all of a sudden it's been a month and you're like, oh my god, like I actually don't have that scorching pain on my right side anymore because I did do these 3 things this month. And sometimes it is like that. But I do want to share it. You are the creator of your reality. You can heal your mind, body, soul. Like it gets there. You get there, right? And
Yeah.
there are different victim programs that we all run until there's this one person that comes in and unlocks that certain thing for us. I have amazing mentors that have shown me my own mental limitations that I would have never known existed, because they walked the path to be able to heal that specific victimhood program. And then they can reflect it back at me, and instantly, especially when you're ready to receive and you're a soul that grows very fast, instantly you see that victimization in yourself and you're like, oh my God, I'm done. I'm done running that program. Thank you so much for walking the path first so that you could give me that wisdom. and so that I could get rid of that. And yeah, so I love what you're saying about it's incremental. You can't force it all in a day. If you are a healer, you have to see where people are at to be able to give them the exact medicine that they need so that they can incrementally grow.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think a lot of what you're speaking about is connection, which is so much of, just being there with someone. We naturally mimic each other. When somebody is around someone with a healer's vibe, or just like we were talking about before this podcast started, just basking in the vibes,
Yes.
it's medicine, because we feel that ease and we see different possibilities in each other. And it's so important to have those conversations with people that are suffering, people that are doing well, who emulate what you want out of life, always connecting and being your authentic self, no matter the conversation. The connection piece is just so important for healing. We can heal ourselves, we can heal the body, but we also need connection with others to be a reflection of what we're striving for, what we're aiming for in the future. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And you're so right about this connection piece, because I want people listening to this to be like, there's a reason why we plug into podcasts all day long of our favorite coach, mentor, healer, because we don't often, this is not the norm. We don't see this on a daily basis of people doing this deep traumatic level healing work. We don't see this in our reality. And I have a little theory about that, that we're all just healers strategically placed by our creators, which could just be ourself from the previous lifetime. I don't know. But we're all strategically placed in different areas in life so that we can do this work and we're not distracted per se by, if we were all around each other, maybe we would just want to go out into the forest and do bonfires and, have our own great party if we were all together. But we're not. We're strategically placed in areas where, the world needs our heart and our work. And there's lots of isolation for the healer's journey. So connection like this, and to know that there are other people out there who are on the same frequency, who understand the work we're doing, who don't think it's too woo-woo or too weird or too much or too anything. No, it's perfect. And there are people doing this work just like you are at different levels. I mean, there are people doing this work and they just woke up to their spiritual awakening, and now they're guiding people right out of the matrix because that's where they're at, right? And then there are people way further down in their journey where there are so many different elements of what they're doing because they woke up 10 years ago. So now they're like in different types of fields and healing in their own unique ways. So yeah, I love this work that we're doing. It's beautiful. And it is about the vibes and the connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when it comes to Reiki, did you want to share with people what you do so that if anyone's interested in booking a session with you, they know what to expect with you in a fusion session?
Yeah. So really what I do is my unique blend. I have studied astrology for years. I do tarot and ritual guidance. So learning how to integrate these timing techniques and divination techniques into that somatic work. So we might get some clues about, what direction or what area of life needs the most, and then that leads into the somatic work. You could be someone that wants to start with the gentle or needs to start with the gentle, or jumping directly into Reiki might be your thing. It's all somatic because of the type of conversations that we have during a session. And then the touch work with Reiki is just so powerful and transformative when we get into that as well. So I do offer those. I offer them on my website, sunjoyhealing.com. You can also follow me on TikTok or Instagram.
Same thing, Sun Joy Healing.
Yes, Sunjoy Healing.
Okay, amazing. And who would you say is like your ideal client profile? It doesn't have to be like girl, guy, but in terms of like where they are energetically. Are they like burnt out? Are they 9 to 5 goers? Or are they more like in the lower frequencies of emotions like shame, guilt, fear, things like that?
My ideal client is someone that knows for certain they are meant for more than what they're going through in their present reality. and they just need to see the other side. They just need to get to that place where things feel hopeful again. Maybe they're affected by trauma, stress, anxiety, PTSD, and they want something bigger, something more, a healer's journey. So, really, finding that healer within yourself is what I guide people to do.
That's beautiful. If anyone is feeling like their pain is invisible and nobody understands them, what would you tell them to circle back to making your pain visible? How can they make their pain more visible to them and walk away from this being like feeling validated in what they're going through and kind of just, yeah, awakening to what's going on?
The world is funny when we open up to possibilities. When we open up to synchronicities, there's an unlimited potential for who you can feel seen by. It might not be that person that you want to see you. It might be a complete stranger. But having someone and making that eye-to-eye contact, whether it's online, like we're connecting right now, or in person at the grocery store, it's small. It can be small, but that leads into more connection. So isolation, I've been there and I feel that so much. It is possible to be seen and feel seen.
So
And
open up
yeah,
wherever you are.
yeah,
Because you know what they say, like, make sure that if you're waiting in line anywhere, that you talk to the person next to you. Because if you're manifesting a role, that person can be like the director of a film, and you never know.
you
Just
never know.
have that open energy to a certain extent where you stay safe and connected.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Caroline. This was incredible. You are an absolute goddess. I wanted to ask a closing question that I will ask all of my guests, which is, what is one thing that you want to tell someone to become more divine or connected to their divinity?
Such a good question.
Thank you.
It's tuning into your body. I mean, it is magical what can happen when you realize how much is able, when you're able to hold more, how much manifests out of that. Every little nuance, every little creak and crack, and it's like a spiritual chiropractic. We are so capable of tuning in instead of tuning out. So, embodiment is fusion, blending of body and mind. When we get there, the world is unlimited potential.
I agree. Thank you so much. This was so brilliant and beautiful. Okay.
Thank
Thank you. And I
you.
will see you on, well, I'll see all the other goddesses and you next week for the next episode.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you. Bye.